Well, today is Yom HaZikaron. Yom HaZikaron is the Israeli Remembrance Day for the IDF fallen soldiers and the victims of terror. And it's a very important day for Israeli society. Since Israel was established, there are 5 national days, and 3 of them are memorial days. One of them is Yom HaShoah, the Memorial Day for the Holocaust. One of them is Yom HaZikaron for the fallen soldiers and victims of terror, and one of them is Yom HaZikaron for Yitzhak Rabin. There was prime minister and got murdered, and just by hearing that, you already start to understand what a big place has the memory in the Israeli society and for Israel as a state. And just before we start, it's important to understand how Yom HaZikaron, how the Israeli Memorial Day looks like, because it's very different from the American Memorial Day. For 24 hours, it starts in the evening, and for 24 hours, the media, people, everyone, communities, they're all just dealing and talking about Yom HaZikaron. If it's in movies, if it's in songs, you will, like, there is no radio station that will play regular songs that are like, pop, fun songs. It's all songs in the spirit of Yom HaZikaron, and this is how it looks like. And an interesting point that I find about the differences start in the language. So today we're going to talk specifically about memorialization. And when I talk about memorialization, in Hebrew, the word is anzacha. Anzacha comes from the word netzach. Netzach in Hebrew means eternity. And in English, it comes from the notion of memorial. So I think that I'm not going to just talk about it a lot, but I think it's really interesting question to think about is if you take these 2 different meanings of the same word, or like the different uses for this word in English and in Hebrew, what does it mean about the way, or about the, what is it proposing regarding to anchoring a person's memory, or like any kind of memory, let's say in a piece of art or in a structure, if you talk about it in like the meaning of eternity or in like remembrance. So this is a very tough and big question, but I think it also represents the differences to this idea of memorialization or anzacha. And today we're going to talk about especially anzacha in Israel and Yom HaZikaron. And before that, I want to talk about zikaron, about memory. So the meaning of memory in Israel didn't start with the establishment of Israel. The place that zikaron, the memory, has starts in our Jewish roots. As Jewish people, we are people that remember everything. We remember Zkor Yom HaShabbat, we remember the Shabbat, we remember the Exodus from Egypt. We remember the Amalek, even though none of us really know the Amalek, but we are supposed to remember the Amalek. So we're people that remember. That's what we create. That's what creates our collective identity as people. And and all these memories, collective memories, that's what makes us as people. And they're very disconnected to our personal memories as individuals. Because none of us really was in Egypt. And, today, even if you will talk about the Holocaust, that's becoming part of our collective memory as Jewish people, slowly, there are not a lot of people that even was in the Holocaust to experience that, but it became a part of who we are today. So what I think is interesting is that if you will talk about memory and you will talk about memorialization, so memory is kind of in the past. We remember stuff that happened in the past. And memorialization, what it's trying to do is to take these memories and turn them into a collective memory that stays in the present and in the future. And then memorialization is choosing what private memories will become part of our collective memory. So what is different in Yom HaZikaron regarding to that is that Yom HaZikaron is combining the private, like the personal memories of people, of individuals, and the collective memories and the memorialization, and it all happens at the same time, and it didn't end. So it's not that something happened and it's in our past and now we remember that and it's part of our collective memory. It's something that still keeps happening. There are still soldiers that die in the war. The people that own these private memories are still among us. They're still in our society. And there is a lot of, it creates kind of a paradox between what is the private memory, what is the collective memory, and like what are the limits, and it keeps changing all the time. So we still don't have the identity of this day or this like memory as something that is like specifically like that because it keeps changing. So that's just the like to give the picture, the big picture of what we're going to see today, and I'm just going to give few examples for that. So I'll say one more thing. If we're thinking about why memory is important for us as people and why memory is important for a society or for a state or for a country or anything, is it because it's a really important part of our identity. So we can't be who we are without remember our past, you know, that we say it all the time, but it's really true. We can't go forward to the future without remember what happened in the past. And I feel that about Israel, it's specifically important because the memory of the fallen soldiers and victim of terror is tied together with the story of the revival and the existence. So that is why there is such an emphasis on memory in Israel. And I was trying to find some examples for what private memories or personal memories became a part of our collective memory in Israel. So the first thing came to my mind is actually this picture. And this picture, I believe, is known to a lot of people. And in Israel, there is no one that doesn't know this picture. And what we see here is a picture of soldiers. Behind them is the Western Wall, right, a kotel. And this picture was taken in the Six-Day War when the tzanchanim, when the paratroopers took over Jerusalem and released Jerusalem. And this day, this picture, what we see here, it's only one moment. So if we'll talk about this picture and we'll talk about memory, the only people that own the memory for this picture is the people in the picture, right? They were the people that were there. They were fighting this this war. They were the first people to see the kotel after all these years. And it's their personal story. But it didn't stay their personal story. It became something much bigger because this picture today symbolizes for everyone in Israel, for the people of Israel, for the Jewish people around the world, the freedom and the release of Jerusalem. So it has a much wider meaning for everyone. And this is part of our collective memory. We celebrate Yom Yerushalayim. We celebrate Jerusalem. This is what people think of, even though none of us were really there. So this is the first thing came to my mind. And now I want to play a song, and then we're going to talk about this song called Anasi HaKatan, the Little Prince. Just a second.
פגשתי אותו בלב המדבר, יפה שקיעת שמש ללב עצוב, ציירתי לו עץ מכבשה על נייר, והוא הבטיח לי שישוב. הנסיך הקטן מפלוגה ב' לא יראה עוד כבשה שאוכלת פרח בכל שושנה בין קוצים שעט, וליבו הקטן קפא הקרח. ואם אי פעם תגיעו לכאן, תדעו שכאן הוא חרש צנח, וכל התפילה לעולם לא נשמע, בגלל החול הרך. והיין יופיע שם ילד אחד, שפניו שוחקות ושיער לו זהב, תדעו שזה הוא והושיעו לו יד, ולטפו את אבק המדבר לעיניו. ואז תעשו עימי חסד קטן, כתבו נא מהר לכל אמותינו, שירווח להן קצת ויפוג צערם. הנסיך הקטן חזר אלינו, הנסיך הקטן מפלוגה ב' לא יראה עוד כבשה שאוכלת פרח בכל שושנה בין קוצים כעת, וליבו הקטן קפא פגשתי אותו בלב המדבר.
Did you hear the song? Just making sure. Okay. So, looking at the words of that song, you can't really get any details about a specific story. It sounds very general. We're talking about the Little Prince. It doesn't even have a name. It sounds like a very general story that, maybe you don't really know the story. And the person that wrote the song, his name is Jonathan Geffen. It took him like 3 decades to publish the story behind it. In this time, this song already became one of the most known songs, especially for Yom HaZikaron, without even knowing what's behind it. Later on, he's telling that the story was reading about a soldier that serves with him in the unit, in the army, and he's describing this soldier like he was a small soldier, very skinny, very short, and they always thought that it's like, how can he be a combat soldier? And this guy, he died from a friendly fire in one of the practices, and he wrote this song about him. And when the author of the song is talking about the song, he said, I didn't even mean this song to symbolize like death, or like to be such a symbolized song for Yom HaZikaron. We're talking about the dead. I wanted it to be a song that symbolized life. And I think it's interesting to see how much place or not there's the person that owned the memory about what the memory means for the collective. You know, there's a lot of tension here because, you know, for him, this song is this guy that served to him, and this song represent life. But for the rest of people in Israel, this song represent Yom HaZikaron. They see the meaning of like the dead, that the little prince is no longer with us. So there is a big tension here. And that's a really like good example for how private memory becomes part of like the collective memory of Israel. And I think very opposite to that is going to be this video that I'm going to share. Just a second. Okay. So this video, it calls Every Summer. It's part of the project. It calls Panim Yom Zikaron, Face Day Memory. And it's created by Bet Avichai. We'll tell later more about that project. But we'll first see the video. It's going to be in Hebrew, but there are subtitles.
בכל קיץ היינו הולכים לחוף, אני ואבא שלי, לראות את צבות הים הגדולות, שעולות להטיל את הביצים שלהן בחול. היינו מבלים לילות בחוף הים, כשאנחנו שרועים על אחת הגבעות הזהובות, שטופים באור ירח. מרגישים את מגעו של החול הקריר, ואת ריחו המיוחד והמלוח של הים. לילה אחד, הן הגיחו פתאום מן הים. כגושים אפלים עלו הצבות מן המים, והתקרבו אל החוף. הן הטילו את ביציהן וגררו את עצמן בכבדות על שברי הצדפים בחזרה אל הים. מדי לילה היינו חוזרים לים, לראות אם הצבים כבר בקעו. וכעבור זמן מה, צבים קטנים ברוחב כף ידי כבר החלו לפנות אל המים. הייתה צבה אחת קטנה עם כתם של עלה על הגב, שאהבתי במיוחד. אבא אמר לי שאפשר לגעת לה בשריון. אבא נפל במלחמת יום הכיפורים. במשך 6 שנים ערבתי לצבות הים כפי שהייתי עושה איתו. חיכיתי בסבלנות לראות את הכתמים הכהים שבים ועולים מן המים. ולילה אחד, כשכבר כמעט נואשתי ונרדמתי, צבת ים גדולה עלתה אל החוף, ועלה כהה על גבה.
Sorry, I wasn't mute. So this video is part of this project. I was telling about this project. I think it started playing again. Okay. So this project is offering a lot of like short animation movies that shares one memory, one moment, or like a personal story of a fallen soldier. They offered like, I think 100, like more than 100, this short, like 2-3 minutes video. And compared to that song, this shows like a very specific story. And they are still trying to turn these stories into something, into like, you know, this video is still a type of memorialization. And there is a big try to turn these into part of our collective memory. Now, a question is, first of all, what memories are important enough to become part of our collective memories? And also, what memories has the power to become part of it? Because not every memory can, we can't remember everything. But I think that if we will look at it in kind of like, historical perspective, if we will look back to like the 50s and the 60s, there were way more limits on what and how we can memorialize, sorry about the word, להנציח, people and stories. And, if something happened, usually we'll have more general memorialization, like if it's places and if it's, books and stories, everything was more general. And I feel like today, everything becomes more personal because there is more space. There are no limits for the internet. There are no limits for the things that people can create. And I think it really changed the way that we commemorate today, in a way that there is much more place for personal stories within all that. So this just is a short example for how this memorialization has changed during the years. And this gives kind of a look into what it is today, even though we can't really know what it is going to be in the future. So, these three examples, we saw the picture and we saw the song and we saw the video. And these all are examples for the way people like commemorate their stories and their memories. And there is, sometimes, some people might say that Israel is dealing with the memory too much. So one of the songs, and this is going to be our final, one of the songs that I found, it's not even new, it was written by Yehuda Amichai, and he is saying the next things. I will read it in Hebrew, but the words are here. Well, I will just read it from here. Let the memorial here remember instead of me. Let what is here, that's what it's here for. Let the park in memory, Let the park in memory of remember. Let the street that named for remember. Let the well-known building remember. Let the synagogue that's named after God remember. Let the rolling Torah scroll remember. Let the prayer for the memory of the dead remember. Let the flags remember those multicolored shrouds of history. The bodies they wrapped have long since turned to dust. Let the dust remember. Let the dung remember at the gate. Let the afterbird remember. Let the beasts of the field and birds of the heavens eat and remember. Let all of them remember so that I can rest. And I feel like an interesting, just for to finish that, an interesting thought and a question to go out from that is, what are the limits? What is the limit between remember and forget? Okay, because we're talking about how remember is important for us, for our identity, but also when is it starting to become a challenge, or when it starts to stop us from going forward or develop or get into a progress. So I think that's what the Yehuda Amichai is trying to bring in the song, because eventually forgetting stuff is also very big importance of us going forward and walking to the future and changing. We can't just stay and remember all the time because it will hold us back. So I think that's a very important just thing to think about. And I think that's it. If you have any questions, so you're welcome to ask now or just comment. I will post that so you can comment your questions or your opinion about everything in the comments. And I invite you all to check the website of Bet Avichai. They have a lot of amazing videos and beautiful stories. And that's it. Thank you very much.